Hello and welcome to the full moon in Capricorn live stream. I'm your host, Cawnawyn Mor, your astrologer for today. And today we're talking about the full moon occurring on June 29th, 2026 at 8 degrees of Capricorn. And we'll be taking a journey through the chart today, talking a bit about the energy that I'm seeing as an astrologer and the different planetary influences. And then hopefully answering some questions here on YouTube. And then I'll be taking my live audience on my Blue Hour subscribers on my Zoom over to some readings. So if you're not yet signed up for Blue Hour, please consider subscribing to my free email newsletter where you get the link sent out every month and you too can have a full moon reading every month on the full moon. So with that, let's take a look at the chart. So we're looking at a Aries rising chart. I do all my charts in Aries rising, so there's no actual rising sign we're taking into account today. I have mine set for 4:57, excuse me, 4:57 Seattle, Washington, Pacific time. So if you convert that to your time zone, you should see a chart similar to this, but your rising sign will look different. And here we have the full moon, moon in Capricorn at 8 degrees, opposing the sun at 8 degrees of Cancer. And this full moon, my gosh, really kicks off a huge summer of transits because not only are we having this full moon, which the moon isn't exactly comfortable in this full moon. Yes, we have the sun in the sign of the moon in Cancer, so there's a bit of reception going on, but the moon is as far away from its home in Cancer as it can possibly be. So the moon's struggling a little bit over here to get us started, but we also, on the same day, just hours earlier, will have Mercury in Cancer as well, going retrograde. Oof, yes, and that's a 2-week transit. We know Mercury retrogrades, we get them 3 times a year. This year, we're predominantly having Mercury retrogrades in water signs. So we're going to talk a bit more about what that energy is introducing into this because it's sharing that home sign of Cancer. And you can see as well, it's right alongside Jupiter in just the very last minutes of its exaltation in Cancer. It spent the last year here. So we'll be talking about that as well. Because reflection, nostalgia, memory, these are all things that I definitely see as themes of this full moon and really, really prominent in this chart. But we also have to talk about what is the full moon? What is a full sun moon opposition for everybody learning astrology? This is meant to show you how do we read a chart? How does an astrologer go about interpreting? So from the basics up. So, with that, we have the full moon, as I said, in Capricorn, where it's not super comfortable. It's as far away from the moon's home sign of Cancer as possible. And when we think about what it's like to travel far from home, and we don't have our things and our creature comforts, and the moon, especially here, where it's secure and nurtured and held in Cancer, it's very far and isolated. In fact, it's in the sign of Saturn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is known for being icy and isolated and remote and dry. And so the moon is in this dry, cold environment, and it's not able to keep itself safe and nurtured and warm. And so when we think about that, what happens when we are so of our comfort zone and we're far away and we don't have our things with us that keep us warm and safe, what that does to us, and it can put us at a bit of a disadvantage. And so the moon, right, represents our body and what our heart needs in order to feel secure and feel safe. And so when we're putting that way outside of itself and there isn't really an opportunity to grab on here, we're really forced to reflect with ourselves of like what's left, right? When we don't have that around us, that safety net, like when we're exposed and maybe kind of vulnerable, it can make us feel very cut off and feeling detached from our loved ones, from our things that we, covet or that we hold on to, that we keep safe. When we're detached from those things, that can create this anguish at times or sadness, but it can also create a very sober reflection of like where we are. And so part of the Capricorn gift, I think, is to be able to look at the situation with a sense of practicality and, okay, this is what I have. These are the facts. So how do I go forward knowing that like, this is kind of the bare minimum of what we have? And Capricorn is forcing us to get real and get sober and look at where the constraints are, where the obstacles are right now, and how our heart maybe is feeling about that doesn't particularly matter. We have whatever is laid out in front of us, whatever the journey may be, and we have to step forward bravely and go for that, whether or not our feelings are telling us that we're safe, because there's probably an element here of being outside of our comfort zone. So, Capricorn also, because it's an earth sign and it is a sign ruled by Saturn, Saturn is always a representative of time. And so Capricorn looks backward in time. Well, what has come before? What is the tradition? What is the foundation? What has been built upon? And what is the legacy to get here? And so the moon is in this very reflective state, but it's again got this sort of colder look to what is the influence of time on all of this. What has come before? We are at the 6 month point of the year of 2026. And I don't know about you, but a lot of the astrologers out there were promising a whole lot of things. And so taking stock, right? And I think taking stock is actually a really good way of looking at this, getting to the earthbound, like practical, tangible things. What has been accomplished? What has been left by the wayside? What has been a priority and what has had to be set aside, maybe because of the emotions or because of feeling, insecure or unsafe or for whatever reason. Maybe just taking that sober approach to like what has thus far been accomplished. And it doesn't have to be met with a sense of judgment, right? We're not sitting here saying, oh, we're bad or we're in a bad position. It's a different position and maybe it's a little uncomfortable, but it's forcing us to get real. And you're going to hear this probably every year around the Capricorn full moon because this is what Capricorn brings, that fresh sense of we got to get real, we got to get practical, got to get grounded so we can build step by patient step to the next thing. And that is what this full moon is illuminating. Because what do we have here? A moon sun opposition. The sun is illuminating this moon in its full glory. We have the moon at its peak of energy here, and it's showing up as an opposition. And when we have an opposition, I know I say this every month, but we're saying it again because it's so important. This shows up as an external force most often. Sometimes we can feel all of this on the inside. I wouldn't be surprised if this does feel a little bit more of an internal moon because we have Cancer and, of course, the moon itself so prominent here. But oftentimes the opposition is going to show up on the outside world. So it might be a relationship or a person coming into our focus. Maybe it's an obstacle in our workforce, or maybe it's a boss or an authority figure because we have this tie into Saturn. Oftentimes Saturn will represent that authority figure. And so whatever is coming into focus externally is here to teach something internally, as above, so below, as within, so without. And so maybe it's this impending sense of, do I have enough time? Do I have the resources necessary? Am I standing in my own sense of ownership and responsibility and my own sense of authority here? These might all be things that are sort of heavy on our hearts. And I don't want to approach this with a sense of judgment. It's more just about a sober approach, a practical look at everything, an opportunity to take stock of the year we've had past. Now, it's especially important to look at the rulers of the sun and the moon. And as I said, the sun is in the moon's sign of Cancer. So we have a little bit of a perception where the sun is really interested. Moon, what are you thinking? What are you going through right now? And the moon is going to go through every sign throughout the entire month. So the sun, by proxy, is trying on the archetypes of every single zodiac sign, of course, of because the moon goes through all zodiac signs. So right now, the sun is really saying, moon, you're the boss, literally. You're the boss, what to do. And so the sun is really much in a reflecting position with this moon right now. And I think because of Cancer, the sign of Cancer's reflective nature, and when we think about water, right, when we stare into water, we see our own reflection gazing back at us. Water is tied to memory, to healing, to, of course, emotion, right? And so many of these prominent emotions are built into this full moon. But again, I think with the Saturnian dryness that's being added into here, how can we approach this not from a sense of feeling overwhelmed or like we're kind of, stuck in this like, oh, there's so much responsibility. There's so much Saturnian weight on our shoulders. How can we stand from it with a recognition that like we've come very far, we've done the best we can do, this is what we knew when we knew it, right? And the moon saying, and now what are the practical steps to go forward? Because the moon in Capricorn, and any planet frankly in Capricorn, what I love about it is enduring and it is patient. It takes its time. It's trying to make sure that all the things are accounted for. It's not going to rush into things. And the real gift of Capricorn, because it's associated with time, is it will outlast. So what I want to ask you is maybe you're looking back and you're going, "Oh, I didn't get this done, or I have this weight of this responsibility. This is impossible because I have the weight of this on my shoulders, or this obstacle." Whatever you're feeling might be weighing you down. How can we lift some of that off and recognize you're doing the best you can? And stepping forward into the second half of this year, what is going to outlast? What kind of routine, foundation, stable step forward is going to outlast whatever obstacles might come in our way? That's really what it's about. It's about a sustainability, not a forcing. Now, here's where it gets complicated. So the moon, with it being in Capricorn, is ruled by Saturn. And this full moon in Capricorn, the tightest aspect it's making happens to be a square with Saturn right here in the sign of Aries. And we've had Saturn pretty prominent in these full moons lately. They've been a little bit on the sobering side. So last month we had the Sagittarius full moon talking to Saturn. This year we have, or excuse me, this month we have this Capricorn ruled by Saturn moon talking to Saturn. As you can see, Saturn's at 14 degrees, the moon's at 8 degrees. It's going to move into that exact square on that day. So that energy is mounting at the time of this full moon. The sun will not reach 14 degrees square for a couple more days. And Saturn is just about to go retrograde next month. So at the end of next month, in about a month. So Saturn is also slowing down, making it more powerful. We have a lot of retrograde motion that's going to start kicking off in the next few months. And what does that create? A lot of powerful motion and this slowing down effect where we feel, oh, these major large forces are suddenly coming into frame, coming into focus for us. So, with the moon and the sun being in square to this, a square aspect is activating. Yes, it's going to probably feel a little bit uncomfortable. So, maybe this is truly a you've fallen on your butt and you have to get real with yourself moment, or there have been some obstacles presented, some constraints introduced, or, some rejections even coming in where it's like, I have to get real. I have to understand what my boundaries are, what my situation is in order to progress forward. And so Saturn's introducing that. And I've been talking about Saturn in Aries is really here to teach us all the different gray area of patience. What does that even mean to be patient? Because Saturn, while we talked about the endurance and the long-lasting nature of Saturn because it's associated with time, right now it's in its most uncomfortable position in the sign of Aries. Aries wants it now. In fact, Aries wanted it yesterday. And Saturn says, no, let's wait and let's build for it because wisdom can only be earned with time. And so when you have these two opposing energies trying to talk to each other and really being intermingled and interwoven with each other, Saturn is really showing us the full gambit here of what happens when we rush and race and push, and what happens when we hold back and we hesitate and we're not sure and we have doubt. Saturn introduces doubt. So if you've been feeling doubt about some things, that might be a really big signature with this full moon right here. And maybe instead of trying to brush it away, where can we interrogate some of that doubt? Where is it coming from, right? That might be a clue for this full moon for you. But the square is asking all of us to activate. It is a activating and pushing or tense, right? A friction aspect that is telling us to get up and move somewhere or decide something. So being decisive is the key to this. Am I telling you which way to go? Yes or no? Rush or don't rush, push or don't push? Not necessarily. I think it's more about being decisive and executing that action is going to be what's really required here because digging our feet into the mud, that's about the most difficult approach to a square's energy that we can take. So Saturn is saying we got to move, we got to decide, we got to do something. Maybe the decision is to wait. Maybe the decision is to back off and to slow down or to hold on to resources. Maybe the decision is, hey, you've been putting all these obstacles and excuses in your way, and you got to recognize you got to own this. It's your responsibility. It's your ownership. You got to step into that and get rid of those obstacles because that's something Saturn is teaching us in Aries too. Where do we hesitate? Where do we put problems in front of us and say, it's not time yet. We're not ready. I'm not brave enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not popular enough. I'm not wealthy enough. Whatever the excuse is, Saturn in Aries is here to teach us, no, there's no such thing as too old or too poor or to, the timing is now. It's really now. So maybe you're feeling called to step into an identity or take some authority or ownership in your life that you're really hesitating around. And Saturn is saying, actually, you just need to do it. You just need to say yes and commit to this is going to be the new normal now. So Saturn is really producing a lot of friction here, and I hope that you can use that. I hope you can feel that fire and get inspired by whatever that might be. Again, this might be coming from that external source because we have the Sun Moon opposition with this T square to Saturn. This is very, very activating when I see this. Maybe again, the problem or the obstacle is introduced by an external force, but it is causing some sort of decision or action within where you are pushed to move, right? So be decisive. Say say whatever it is going to be that you do and stick up for it and own it, right? Going forward. Now, I want to take a look at Saturn's ruler because right now, as I'm doing this forecast, we just had Saturn's planetary ruler. We're going to go one level deeper here. We have Saturn in Aries ruled by Mars, which just hours ago entered Gemini. And Gemini, right? Gemini is a Mercury ruled sign. And what do we know about Mercury at the time of this full moon? It's just gone retrograde hours earlier. So now we're introducing this once again. Retrograde can be that sort of internal reflective energy going backward in time, thinking about what has come before, maybe having to rehash or redo or renegotiate something that you've just previously gone through as Mercury has been going through Cancer. But Mercury also is turned way up. Whenever we have a planet retrograde, it means the planet is closest to Earth in orbit. That's what creates that backwards effect in the sky. And so Mercury retrograde is what is operating this Saturn. So are you having to go back and redo something? Maybe get really real about, I left that unfinished. I need to say this properly. I need to tie up the loose ends. I need to go back and step into that authority piece and own this and finish it. Because that might be a key part of this. You might even be introduced to this obstacle as this full moon is illuminated. So this is a deeper layer to this, right? And we have Mercury is ruling this newly formed Mars in Gemini. That is why Mercury has his signature over here in Saturn. So Mars going into Gemini, what do we also see? Holy moly, Mars is just a few degrees away from its conjunction with Uranus, which is going exact on July 3rd in Gemini. This is a massive transit. And what I want to speak to this for just a moment here, because I would be remiss if I left it out. Mars with Gemini and Uranus with Gemini coming together, right? We've already probably been experiencing, I wonder for you, and I'd love to know if you want to share anything in the comments. Where have you been experiencing polarity in life, the extremes? Because Uranus is awakening us collectively through exposing both sides, the black and the white, the dark and the light, the up and the down, all of the polarities of this reality that we're living in. And it's awakening us by showing us all of this at rapid fire. Uranus is moving lightning fast. Of course, we tie Uranus to technology, to spiritual awakening, to revolt and revolution, right? So maybe are there areas in your own life where you're kind of being exposed to or feeling a little bit rebellious or even scandalous because Uranus is introducing that energy and in Gemini wants to talk about it, wants to share about it. Where have we been maybe seeing things or being exposed to frequencies that are showing us these extremes? We now have Mars coming into the situation as of just a few hours ago. And what is Mars doing? Mars is adding heat and precision to this. In fact, in Gemini, it's extremely precise. Mars is often attributed to like a source of cutting or like a knife point, right? A needle point or a sword point. And it can be very actually like literally amputative in this situation. So I want everyone to be really careful out there. This transit is one that can get a little dicey just because Uranus is chaotic and can often introduce us like that awakening through crisis. So just where are we being maybe pushed to rush a little bit? Remember what I said about Mercury being so close? This is go faster, go faster, go faster, go faster on repeat. Like the frequency of urgency is suddenly going to get very loud. I can even tell I'm feeling it because I'm talking so fast, but I also have a lot of Gemini in my chart. So forgive me. But we have this Mercury like producing the urgency between these two planets. Now it's in retrograde, and it's what's ruling this Saturn ruling the moon. Yes, it all ties in together. And as an astrologer, when I look at a chart like this, I'm always going one level deeper to the ruler, to the ruler, to the ruler to see where is the energy. And I think you can tell there's a lot packed into here. And what is it all doing? Well, it's asking us to assess where are we being rushed? Where are we being forced to move faster? Where do we need to get extremely precise and open up to the possibility of something new, something different, and maybe something that we need to redo? But I definitely feel the looking backward right now, which is really interesting because we have this full moon at the very beginning of a whole summer, especially in July, of transits that are really fire and air heavy, fueling us like a rocket forward. So this moment is kind of this, what do we need to take with us? Where are we taking stock? Where are we getting practical? What are we holding on to as we step into this propulsion rocket of the summer? Because I don't want to say it's our last chance, right? We can always make do, we can always change our lives, and we can always do it again, right? We can always reapproach. But with this kicking off this Mercury retrograde, now is kind of the moment to take stock of what we need in order to go forward. What is going to sustain us, right? We have all of this extreme energy just on the precipice, and Uranus is showing it to us every few moments. What can we do to actually sustain us through those extremes? What are the truths that we can hold on to? Where can we feel the most secure within ourselves, right? Maybe not necessarily because we have enough money or we have enough things or we have enough nurturing, but where can we get real about ourselves? What is true within you? What is an unshakable? What is impenetrable, right? That's what I want everyone to reflect on and hold on to as we're propelling into this new place where we're going to be asked to stretch and own and be responsible and be exposed to things and have to sit with them and grapple and wrestle with them and potentially like really change our lives when it comes to all of the air and fire energy. It's so much like information overload. The frequency is loud and invigorating. It's exciting. It's terrifying in some respects, right? I think you'd be foolish not to have a little bit of anxiety about some of the energy coming forward because what's it going to be on a global level? I couldn't tell you, right? I'm not the predictive astrologer that's going to say this is what going to be what happens. But what I can say is that you can use this. And this full moon is that last sort of look back moment. What am I taking with me going forward? Because only what is sustainable, only what will survive through this is going to get us through this next piece. And let it be something that gives you that sense of safety, of home, of nurturing, of solid ground. I want to sort of wrap up this energetic explanation with the fact that we are looking at these last moments of Jupiter in Cancer. Now, something I find really interesting. Mercury got so close to reaching Jupiter, right? Here's Jupiter right here, just 3 degrees away. And Mercury decided to turn around and go back home. It said, nope, I'm going back. We almost had this lovely conjunction. So I don't know if any of you out there are feeling this, but did you have a sense recently of you're getting really, really, really close to something and nope, you actually got to turn back to finish that thing that you started? Or whatever is laying behind you actually needs to take your attention right now. Or something almost came to fruition and it was just that close, but didn't quite make it, didn't quite line up the way you were hoping. It's kind of that like just missed the good luck window. Now, is the good luck window gone forever? No, of course not. But we have Jupiter at this last degree, and somewhat could consider this 29th degree a crisis degree. And I really think of Jupiter as it's looking back at its time in Cancer, where it is exalted. It is its most comfortable. Jupiter is his most generous and most at home here, most benevolent here, as he's looking back and sort of discovering what was I capable of holding? What was I capable of completing, of manifesting, of stepping into that I didn't know was possible? What doorways have opened within the last year that I never could have dreamed of, that I bravely stepped through and said yes and held on to it? Because I think that this signature of Jupiter is baked into this whole equation, and there should be this element of that Jupiterian gratitude of I've come this far, I've done this work, I've managed to get here. And as we go forward into whatever new energy is coming, you are capable of holding so much. You are capable of doing so much. And that's not to just applaud your resilience and send you on your way, because nobody wants that. It's more to say, you don't know what you're capable of until you're facing these Saturnian obstacles and you decide bravely to step into them and expand. That was what Jupiter was teaching us this whole time. So, can this be a reflective moment of gratitude of this is what you've got? This is the gumption, this is the fire, this is the desire that you're holding on to, and it's worth carrying into that very future. So, how are you going to do it in a way that lasts? In a way that actually builds upon something. That is what I want to leave you with all the energy of this full moon. I feel like I went really rapid fire through this one, and I just want to open it up if anybody has any questions. Fired up, but I also get very angry. Thank you so much for commenting over on YouTube. But yeah, I totally understand the anger here. And with Mars and Uranus, I will say, being together in Gemini, be ready for those sort of extreme back and forths with the emotions because we're being presented with so much. Be mindful of the frequencies that we're kind of dealing with. You mentioned even tech issues over there on YouTube, and thank you again for commenting. Where the technology piece of this cannot be understated, and things like the wavelengths, the frequencies that we're being exposed to with our phones, with our tablets, like it's so important as we go into this air and fire place that we're remembering to ground and get away from the technology and like clear the space, clear our heads, uh, be in Nature, be in Mother Earth's energy, and like actually ground in because it's going to get not only loud, and it probably already is for you, right? I'm not gonna dismiss that. Uranus being in Gemini on and off of this last year, it's really turned up the amplification. But now with Mars here, this is the first time we've had Mars in Gemini since Uranus has entered Gemini for the last 80 years. Okay. So Mars being here adds the heat, it adds the pressure and the pointed like direction where it feels like it's attacking us, right? Like it feels personal at this point. And again, the heat and the precision just, being targeted potentially or being feeling like it's just overwhelm. Like there's suddenly so much. So be really mindful of your sensitivity to frequencies right now because it can't be understated and so much can help by just getting away from the technology. Of course, we're here meeting on technology. And it's something that I'm very grateful for that even exists, but so important to step outside of that and give yourself the break and put the phone somewhere else while you're sleeping, right? Like how can we minimize on some of those frequencies and not let that get caught up into our emotions? Because our emotions, as you can see, are tied up into this. No single element, by the way, is left out of this full moon. It's all tied in together. So while it could feel like this overwhelming, the full moon energy of the moon being illuminated, we're in that peak of emotion and all the elements are like, vibrating right now. We can take that step back and realize like this is actually an invitation for integration of the elements within us, within our bodies, within our minds, our souls. So definitely thank you all for, oh my gosh, for people for commenting on YouTube. I really appreciate it. And yeah, this whole full moon is going to be exciting. What can we take from this? What are you holding on to? I'd love to know if you want to like share it in the comments. Let me know what that you're holding on to going into this next 6 months of the year. What have you learned from this last year? What has been some of those Saturnian obstacles and lessons? So yes, thank you. I want to invite any other questions if you have on YouTube or also on the forecast for the next few minutes. And then I'm going to close out on YouTube and we will head over to my Zoom room. And once again, thank you so much for my Blue Hour subscribers for being in my Zoom room. We're going to be doing some readings following this up. I'll have time for a couple and cannot wait to do that for you. If I don't see any other questions. Okay, cool. Well, we are at about 2:30, and I hope that everyone watching has enjoyed this forecast. Thank you so much for watching. And Zoom Room folks, please stay online. Again, if you want to sign up, the link is free. You can sign up for my newsletter, and every month we do the readings immediately following this forecast. So once again, thank you so much for watching this forecast, and I will see you next month.